my journey started. I was 55 years old. Um, actually just actually just turned 56. I very active, no health issues at all. I run a business. I coach, referee, soccer, all divisions, all the way up to the upper divisions. I went to the doctor for a physical for the upper division certification card, the annual checkup, and told me that they were going to take me to the emergency by ambulance. And it was kind of a shocker because I didn't feel bad. I mean, I did two games that week. I did game Tuesday, Thursday, went to the doctor on Friday, and here I'm being sent to emergency in an ambulance. I get to the hospital. They said I was having a heart attack. They checked, it wasn't. Um, they admitted me, and the next day we did an angiogram. Well, during the angiogram process, they found out that I had um, cardiomyopathy. The left side of my heart was hard as a rock. I had 15%. Yeah. Everybody came to me and was telling me how bad I was, but I didn't feel bad. And so I was kind of confused because everybody was panicking and I didn't know why. And so the more questions I asked, I asked, well, we're going to take care of this with meds. How are we going to do this? And he says, well, we're going to try to control it by meds, but you're going to need a transplant. And that just threw me back for a loop because I've heard of kidney transplants and stuff, in that nature. But as far as heart transplant, it was all new. So I kind of Googled it and found out what was going to happen, what I needed. I started treatment, care. I was fortunate because my cardiologist that I started with, um, they came straight out with me and told me what I needed. So they wanted to put in a defibrillator. And so when I went from the regular cardiologist to a heart failure specialist, um, they wanted to do another angio. So they thought they could put stents. So we went ahead and we did the angio. They put stents and they got blood flowing, but that left side was already dead. There was no pumping action at all. So the insurance would not cover to put in a defibrillator pacemaker. They wanted to wait 3 weeks to make sure that it didn't work. Well, we knew it didn't work, but I still had to wait. So they gave me what they call as a life vest. It's an external defibrillator. And I had that in the hospital for about 2 days. And during those 2 days, it kept going off. And if you guys are familiar with it, it's like a vest that has paddles on the front and on the back. And when it signals a trigger, you have 35 seconds to call a 1-800 number and tell them that you're okay. Otherwise, they think that you passed out and then it'll automatically shock you. Well, it kept going off. And so the nurses were going crazy. I was going crazy. And they brought another one, tried to get that. And it just didn't work. So they weren't going to release me. Well, by this time, they had already got the okay now to put in a defibrillator. So we did that. I was in the hospital for a couple days, released me, went home. About 2.5 weeks later, 3 weeks, I was doing the dishes with one of my boys. And I told him I felt lightheaded. And I didn't feel bad. I just felt not dizzy, but just lightheaded. And next thing I know, he's holding me and he says, Dad, your defibrillator went off. And I said, what? He says, yeah. And I says, no. I said, because they told me it'd be like a horse kicking in the chest. But I didn't feel nothing. And so I called my team and they told me to get to the nearest hospital and get it interrogated. So I did, and it had gone off twice. And what happened was the first time knocked me out, and then the second time brought me back. So they kept me in the hospital, and they told me that I was going to go home the next day. Nothing they could do. Well, that night I went into cardiac arrest. So they intubated me and told my family that we're going to just set up hospice and go ahead and send them home and let them pass. And my family called um, the doctors, the specialist that I was going to, and got me over to the transplant center. And when I got to the transplant center, it was a battle because the hospital that the community hospital I was at, they didn't want to release me because they said there was nothing they could do over there. They had never heard of any of the artificial hearts or anything like that. But they got me over there. And when I got there, I waited 3 days and nothing came available. My organs started to fail. My kidneys were shutting down. And so we had talked about TAH, and my family agreed to it. They said that's what I wanted. So we did it. Um, I woke up, and the first thing I told my wife, I told her, I said, I know this is a great hospital. And everything's always top notch here. I says, but I didn't know that they do their own laundry. Well, what that noise was, it was the artificial heart. It was the driver, the C2 driver. Um, from that point on, it was positive. I knew what I had. I knew what I was going to do. Um, One of the hardest things for me, being an athlete and a referee, a coach, was my legs. And so first thing I wanted to do was walk. And in the hospital, you're on the C2 driver, which is a little bigger driver that you can push around. I did that. I got ready to go home. And what you see on the screen is what I went home with. With that, going home with that, I was walking 3 to 5 miles a day, a regular diet. Otherwise, I would have passed. I was able to see my family, my boys graduate from college, one graduate from high school. As you can see, the drive line and the backpack. Um, to me, it was not an inconvenience. It was you heard me coming. There's no doubt about that. Um, it it was something that when people ask me, I would tell them, it's my heart. Your heart beats on the inside. My heart beats on the outside. I was able to continue to live life. Um, my grandbaby, that was my first grandbaby being born. I was able to go to the store, parks. They told me I could referee. The backpack, 13 pounds with the batteries, 15 pounds or so. But that's like going to a candy store and telling you can only have one candy. I wanted to do the big boys again. I just didn't want to do the little guys. So I kind of held off on that. I kept coaching, but it was there. I played golf. Um, I did yard work. Um, there was times when I had a lot alarms. The when I was cutting the hedges there, I had an alarm. I had to go change drivers, but it wasn't the driver's fault. It was my fault because I had my back to the sun, and so it got warm, and so I just went in and changed drivers, and we're back at it. Um, I, as you can see, it wasn't a restriction to me. I worked out. That picture, that's my youngest son. We were walking, we were about on the fourth mile, and he told me I was going too slow to pick up the pace. And I said, well, I'm carrying this backpack. Here, you walk with it for the last hour. He was my caregiver. My wife did it for the first night, And what you have to do is on your drive lines, when the drive lines come out, it's like a surgical procedure every night where you clean and sterilize, like a surgical atmosphere, sterile gloves, mask, everything. He was looking over his shoulder. You're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. So he did it. He did it for 200 days. Um, he wants to be a PA now. So I think I kind of led him into that route. But it gave me the opportunity to live instead of staying in the hospital. Golf, I did a symposium with some doctors, and a couple of my doctors were there. And when they seen these pictures, they says, "Wait a minute, you didn't say, or who told you could golf?" I said, "You guys did." I asked. Well, we didn't know you were really going to go golf. We thought you were just going to, hit ball or whatever. But I went out and I played. Um, and it was, I didn't know what the next day was going to be like. I had this opportunity. I felt good all the time. The only thing I couldn't do was ride a bike. They didn't want me to ride a bike because of somebody hitting me or me falling or whatever. So I rode a stationary bike, so I was able to stay healthy. And one thing with the artificial heart, when I got it, I was sick. And I seen a lot of people, doctors, nurses, and stuff that came to me after and says, "Boy, you were a sick patient when you came here. You were a sick patient." And during this period of after receiving artificial heart, I healed. My body regenerated itself. My kidneys got better. My liver got better. So when I got into transplant, I was healthy. I was, like I said, I was walking 3 to 5 miles. So my recovery was really, really good. And I give that credit to the TAH. When I talk to physicians now, that's one thing I tell them. Don't wait. Let your patients have this opportunity early. Don't wait until they're really, really sick. It makes a big, big difference. Um, and I think now the more we get out there and the more we talk about this artificial heart, and what you guys are doing is just remarkable because it puts more knowledge out there. You wouldn't believe how many doctors that I've talked to about and nurses, and the first thing they say, "Oh yeah, yeah, we know what it is. It's the Jarvik heart." Well, how long ago was that? Heck, half of you guys probably weren't even born. I mean, we're ancient, and that's what these doctors still have in their thinking process, or they'll say an LVAT. So we have a lot of work to do. We really do. And what you guys are doing is outstanding. Um, that was the last day in the hospital. That was his last dressing change. We The only issue that I had ever with the TAH was the hoses, the drive lines. Sometimes when I get too close to a door, they'd catch on the doorknob or something, and then it kind of pull you back a little bit. But as far as that, there was never any issues. Um, I did everything. I'd go to the movies. I mean, I wouldn't sit in the middle of the crowd. I'd try to kind of go to the side or something. But when I talk to patients, TH patients, I tell them, you got to be proud of what you got because this is what's keeping us alive. And you never know when somebody else is going to need it. And now they know about it. I've talked to a lot of guys that they just shut themselves in. And that's not good. It's not good mentally. It's not good physically. You got to get out because that's what the device is made for. It's made to live life. When I walked, I took a lot of heat for this one. I was going to get my transplant, and they came to get me on the gurney. That's the C2 driver there. That's the one that you're on in the hospital. Um, I told them I wasn't going to go on a gurney, and they said, "Well, everybody goes to the on gurney," and I says, "No." I says, "I'm going to walk." And right away, my boys, man, you just want to be big shy. You're just trying to show off and that. And that wasn't it. And I never really told anybody to a few years later. I didn't know if that was going to be my last walk. And if I go out, man, I'm going out walking. I ain't going to go out on a gurney. I fought too hard. Um, and that was the start of my recovery right there. That was coming. That's pretty amazing. That IV rack, there's 3 racks there. That when I came out, that's what I looked at. Um, it took 2 nurses about an hour and a half to set that up, but it went down really quick, really, really quick. That's the first afternoon out of transplant. I have that towel across my chest because they didn't close me up. They left me open for 24 hours to make sure there was no internal bleeding or nothing before they closed me up. That was one of my chief nurses. No matter if he was on my side or on my floor, he came by and saw me every single day, every day. That was our Christmas party. Cedars has a Christmas party every year for all the transplant patients. When you have a transplant or any heart issues, they give you a pillow for the surgery. I got lucky. I got 2 of them. I got one for the TAH and then one for the transplant. And so all the doctors and nurses and everybody sign it. And kind of a good thing, a little remembrance. This was about 4 months. I did my first 5K. I didn't run it all. I walked a little bit. Those are some numbers that I had. So those numbers in that 5K, I credit that to the TAH too, because like I told you guys earlier, coming out, I was healthy. I was good. I mean, I had some um, issues with stitches and stuff like that, but as far as physically, I was sound. Um, and that was because when I went into transplant, I was sound. There's my therapist. They worked me hard. Um, they knew what I did. They knew I was an athlete, so they pushed me at that pace. Um, my recovery was really quick. Um, heart patients, whether it's a transplant or a, bypass, whatever, um, cardiac rehab is a must. A lot of insurances won't cover it for the patients, but I'm an advocate for it. I advocate patients with their insurance to get them into the program. They're big. One of the therapists on the right side there, she's a teacher up at a university. I go and I talk to her physical therapy class on about transplant patients and how to work with us and different things. Great response, great response. Big part of transplant. That's my cardiologist. I give him a lot in saving my life. He's not a heart uh, therapy or specialist. He's just a cardiologist. But he had the knowledge and the strength to let me go to some place where he knew more than what they did at his hospital. He took a lot of heat because they told him not to do it. He went ahead and did it. I've gone out and we've done a lot of speeches and stuff together. Um, I don't believe in coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. When he did the first angio, he came to me after and he says, you look familiar. I know you from somewhere. I just can't place it. What do you do? And we kind of hit and miss. And then come to find out, he plays soccer on a British pub team in Orange County, California. I refereed one of his matches about 3 weeks before he seen me. And that's my transplant doctor. Uh, he's now not at Cedars no more. He's up in Texas and Houston. Dr. Ramsey, he did my transplant, the TAH, and the artificial. He told me that he did the TAH so that the transplant would be easy. And the way he explained it to me, It's like changing a motor in a car. When you have to rebuild a motor, it takes a lot of work. When you're doing a transplant or the TAH, it's like buying a crate motor and just putting a crate motor in whole. Uh, Great man, great man. That's my transplant team. The aftercare. I did the transplant games. 18, 2020. We were supposed to go to New York. They got canceled. COVID. We went to San Diego. We hosted the games here in San Diego. I do a 5K, 20K bike race, golf. Got a few gold medals, a few bronze medals, silver medals. I don't do it for me. I do it in honor of my donor. I've got all my accolades. Uh, I did it for them, for the team, for my family, the caregivers. That's why I do it. I'm the team manager for the SoCal team. We started this nonprofit, Unique Beating Hearts, when I was going through the TAH program and stuff. There was no support groups, no nothing. Just other patients once in a while you could talk to and stuff. I was very fortunate because I had my mentor was Bill Wall. He was one of the first TAH, Syncardia TAH patients. He's the one that got me into bike racing. He was a professional lacrosse player, track swimmer, athlete. So he really motivated me, got me going. Um, just well, it was such a inspiration for me. So that's why we started this nonprofit to help other TAH patients, uh, mechanical device patients, and their support group. As you guys know, you have to have support 24/7. Somebody has to be with you because they don't want you to change your driver and stuff by yourself. So my family was trained. I had a couple friends that were trained. So when I'd go play golf, everybody knew, what to happen. If it did, it never did. But that's I'm really proud of this organization. We have some good people working it. Everybody really, really cares about the program, and to me, that's what's important. That's what's important. Everybody that we can help, and their caregivers make their process a little easier is what it's all about. Um, I want to thank you guys too for what you're doing. And it's funny because stuff comes back full circle. I did a lecture up in Utah and not Utah, San Antonio. And this doctor came up to me after and he asked me if he could talk to me after the program. And I told him, yeah, sure. And I don't have any questions that are too personal. I answer everything. I'll talk about anything. And so we were talking, and he told me that he was a surgeon that implanted the Jarvik heart and some of the earlier generation into calves at the University of Utah. And I told him, I said, Doc, I want to thank you for saving my life. And it got kind of teary eyed, and he says, I didn't have nothing to do with you. And I says, you did, because by you doing what you did, that carried on to where I'm at today. And that's where you guys are right now. You guys are carrying on this tradition, this therapy. I always say it's not a device. You guys are developing a device as engineers, but to me, it's a therapy. It's something that's going to keep me alive, keep patients alive, and give us that second chance at life.